Hello and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And we're trucking our way through the March Madness NCAA tournament. We're in the second weekend. The Sweet 16 is upon us. So we're going to continue our run predicting some basketball games. But without further ado, Tim, are you ready to go?
Let's run it. Let's keep it going.
We got a fun slate of games. But first, let's recap how we did in the second round. Entering the second round, Tim, I was 3 games back on you. I caught a game going 11 and
Yes,
5,
caught one.
bringing my overall record to 33 and 15. Tim, you went 10 and 6, still very good with an overall record of 35 and 13. I'm running out of games. I'm running out of time. So
It's as the rounds get smaller and smaller, it's harder to catch up on games unless we start making some really crazy picks that either pay off or don't.
yep, and it's going to be a very, very fun slate of games in the Sweet 16, though, starting with Alabama and San Diego State. Alabama defeated Maryland in a pretty easy win. Alabama just proved they were the better team than Maryland.
Yeah.
And
They
San Diego,
outlasted them.
and San Diego State on the other side, their defense came to play. Furman shot horribly, and it was
Yeah, they're really an all or nothing there on that type of offense that they did not get much going at all.
yeah, and that's okay. San Diego State cruised to a 23-point win. But in this one, it's offense versus defense. And in this matchup, Alabama has way too much talent. San Diego State can make it close. I think they definitely can make it a game with the defense that they have. But I like Bama's offense and the talent that they have to win out and go to the Elite Eight.
To me, it's a similar situation of Alabama's matchup against Maryland. You've got a team that is a pretty solid defensive team, but their offense is kind of built on their defense. And as much as Maryland was able to keep it close for a good portion of the game, maybe the half of the game, but I think again Alabama will just outlast them, and because they have so many different ways they can score, that they'll find a way around San Diego State's defense. So I got Bama moving on too.
The next game we have is Creighton against Princeton. Princeton's
Wow,
here.
they
Creighton,
did it.
they defeated Baylor 85 to 76, and Creighton's just looking like the Final Four team we thought they could be, and they breezed by Baylor. But on the other side, Princeton, this is the third
They
straight
put
year
on
a
a show.
15 seed has made it to the Sweet 16. Of course, defeating that
So
17,
wild.
that 7
Three
seed.
years in a row.
Yeah, who would have thunk it? And
Before those 3 years, that's only happened once, and now it's
yeah,
happened to four total times.
with Dunk City, and then we have Oral
Yep.
Roberts, St. Peter's, and now
Is
Princeton.
now
But we just
Princeton.
saw the other side of Mizzou basketball where the defense doesn't show up
Yeah.
and Princeton moves on. But I wish that a 15 seed could advance to the Elite Eight for a second straight season, but it's not going to happen. Creighton is too good. They're playing too well right now with Ryan Kalkbrenner, Baylor Shireman, and company. They're just going to roll by Princeton. I don't think this one will be particularly close.
For me, it's just Princeton doesn't match up well. You talk about the way they play, the way they defend. I don't. Not many teams have a great way to defend Ryan Kalkbrenner, and I don't think Princeton is one of them. So especially with the way that they've been scoring the ball and just overall playing, they looked fantastic on both sides of the ball. Really against Baylor, putting up 85 points of their own. I see them having pretty similar offensive success. I don't know. I mean, these games they always seem to be decently close. But I think Prince is going to put up a fight just because, the motivation that they've had and the run that they've had to get to this point. But I don't think they're going to be able to outlast Creighton.
Boy, Big East represent 3 Big East teams in the Sweet 16, and
Yeah.
Georgetown and St. John's, they come, and the Big East is going to be very, very back. But we still have some games to predict. The next one we have is Houston against Miami.
Hey, they proved us wrong.
Yes, they did. Houston
Proved us both
defeated
wrong.
Auburn 81 to 64. Tim, Houston proved you wrong. I mean,
That
Auburn,
is true, but it was very close for a good
yes.
portion of the game. But Houston really pulled away at the end there, and Auburn kind of, crash landed and fell on their face.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn had a 10-point lead at the half, and then you said it. They absolutely face planted. But on the other side, with the Miami Hurricanes, how about that
They looked
you?
good.
Dude,
They
call
looked good.
IU Miami North because the Hurricanes own Indiana, not only beating them once in the men's bracket, But the next day, they beat them again
The
in the
very
women's
next day,
bracket, sent them home
back to
in
back days. That's wild to
Assembly
me.
Hall as a 1 seed. Miami with the shocking upset.
One
Indiana,
versus nine.
Miami owns your ass. There's no if, ands, or buts around it. Norchad Omier dominated Trace Jackson Davis.
I was pretty astonished. Not like Trace Jackson Davis didn't have, a very solid game of his
He
own,
got
but
his, but Norchad Omier had
yeah,
17 boards
yeah.
against Trace
The
Jackson
other, I
Davis.
mean, the big difference was the rest of the team didn't really show up. I mean, you talk about the great game that Race Thompson had in the first round. You talk about trying to get Jalen Hood-Schifino going. They really couldn't get much of anything going, and that's why their offense, sputtered to a halt while Miami's guards just took over the game in the second half.
Well, when a father and their son plays basketball, the father wins always. But with this Sweet 16 matchup, Houston and Miami, I actually didn't pick Miami to move on here. I thought Trace Jackson Davis would dominate that matchup. But guess what? The Miami Hurricanes plowed right through them, and they're going to plow right through Houston. Indiana was the big test, and they passed with flying colors, throwing up the U, back to the Elite Eight again.
I mean, I obviously didn't trust Houston in the last round, and for a good portion of the game, they were kind of proving me right. I kind of want to say I think Auburn beat themselves more than Houston did down the stretch. And if Miami can put together that type of guard performance again, if let's just say if there's one team that can battle guard for guard with Houston's backcourt, it's Miami, and especially on the scoring side of things. I actually like the Hurricanes. Houston just they worry me. They're very come and go, and I don't know if they can put together a whole game of solid performance against a team that's not going to beat themselves. And with the way that Miami's playing right now, they could very well do this. So I got to trust in the Canes. We're both flipping
Dude,
script from the last round, but
believe in the Canes.
we
Don't be a fan
we
later.
believed we believed in them in the conference tournament. They obviously let us down a little bit. We didn't believe in them
Look,
in this one. They prove us
I
wrong. We'll see if they can.
I didn't believe in the Canes, which is as much as that pained both of us in the second round because of the bad
I'm
matchup.
glad to be wrong.
Oh, I've never been so happy to be wrong. This could be a horrible matchup. I'm picking Miami until they lose. I am riding the Canes for the rest of the tournament, and that means the national championship if I have to. I do not care. Dancing on IU's grave and dancing on the rest of the tournament's grave. How about them Canes?
Keep on dancing.
But we got more games to cover. Xavier and Texas. This is going to be a fun one.
I thought Penn State had him for a little bit. I was like, come on.
Yeah, Penn State gave Texas a battle, but the Longhorns came away with a 5-point victory. And Xavier was just the better team against Pitt. And this game, was it ever truly in doubt? I would argue no. Pitt's unexpected good run in season comes to an end. And with Texas, they defeated and prepared well for the unpredictable that is Penn State. And as much as I'm repping the Big East and with their how good they've been, I'll take Texas to move on. I've liked Texas this whole tournament, and I'm going to continue to ride the Longhorns.
Yeah, big thing that we saw out of the Texas Penn State game is both of those teams are not immune to sort of off night shooting. I mean, for Penn State, you had Andrew Funk going, what I was believe 2 for 10 from 3 after his amazing first round game. Even Texas obviously didn't shoot all that well to only put up 71 points of their own. I like what Xavier's offense has been doing, especially against Pittsburgh, putting up 84 points. Obviously, the first round wasn't particularly convincing against Kennesaw State, but like I said, that matchup was a very unique one.
It's a funky one, but
the big thing is I like Sean Miller as a coach, and he obviously has had a big reemergence under Xavier. I think the coaching actually might be able to help prevail in this one. I think that Texas actually has a bit of a continuation of their off streak there, and I actually trust in the Big East here. I'm sending 2 Big East teams into the Elite Eight. I've got Xavier.
Well, Tim, are you going to make it a third? Because the next game we have is Arkansas and UConn. You correctly predicted the 8-1 matchup with Eric Musselman taking
If
his
I had
shirt off
predicted
again.
both of them, I would have been so happy. But still, getting Arkansas over Kansas, because I had, that was a matchup that I
Yeah,
had predicted from the beginning. That wasn't one that I kind of just pulled out of nowhere. I had thought that
it was a
Arkansas
good
would move
poll.
on. Yeah.
It was a very good poll, and
We know
Arkansas
that we
is a
know the
talented
talent that
team.
Arkansas has. Yes,
Hmm.
exactly. They have all the talent. It's a matter of putting those pieces together, and they made Kansas uncomfortable, and that was the difference maker. The asterisk, of course, that people will talk about and people have asked: would the game have been different with Bill Self at the helm for Kansas? And it very well might have. And it's of course
Probably.
it's a really unfortunate situation, but it's not something you can control.
You go with who you have, and just that's the unfortunate part where Kansas came up on the wrong side. And on the other side, UConn beat St. Mary's by 15 points, and the duo of Adama Sanogo and Jordan Hawkins, they're just
They
awesome.
just they
It's
play
as good a
volleyball, man.
duo as any in the country, and they just powered UConn right into the next round. Tim, you at this point have two Big East teams moving on to the Elite Eight, and so do I. Arkansas has all the talent in the world, but it will be that duo of Sonogo and Hawkins and the coaching of Danny Hurley that is going to propel UConn into the Elite Eight.
Big thing for me in this matchup for Arkansas's matchup against Kansas, they were able to get quite a few Kansas players in significant foul trouble. I don't see them having that same success in this game, especially with the way that UConn plays down low. It quite frankly could be a flip of a script where you get
It
Arkansas in
could
some
be
foul
could be the
trouble.
other way around. Good luck getting UConn into foul trouble without getting into foul trouble yourself. And if
And that's
Arkansas
and
goes down into foul trouble, they're in trouble.
yes, exactly. Especially with the way that it takes to defend this UConn front court. So believe it or not, I'm booking 3 for 3 in the Big East. I've got UConn moving on as well. In Big East, we trust.
In the Big East, we trust. Hey, that makes me happy to hear. The Big East is a conference. It just keeps getting better and better every single year.
They're performing.
Gonzaga with the pretty awesome comeback. All they needed is a late surge, and that's all they needed against TCU to pull out a victory. They ended up with more
That was
points, and
close though.
yeah. Does Gonzaga really care? No. All that
I
matters
was
is
just
that they're
surprised because I didn't
advancing.
really see TCU playing this well, but they
I
did
didn't
put up a
either.
very solid performance.
Yeah, they put up a fight, and you can tip your hat to them. And on the other side, Northwestern didn't make it easy on UCLA either. UCLA only
That
came
was
away with a
close.
5-point win. It was also very close. And, you could have very easily had TCU playing Northwestern in this matchup. It's just like a few minor tweaks
Yeah.
happened, but
I
that's
mean,
not the matchup we're predicting. We're predicting Gonzaga and UCLA. And I have to ride the offense of Gonzaga. I have to ride how hot they've been, what they can do on both sides of the ball. When you're playing as well as Gonzaga is playing right now, I mean, 84 points speaks to itself. And with the way they surged back in the second half, fighting through adversity and like when the chips are down, what are you going to do is a really good sign of what you can expect as a team. And as experienced as UCLA is, like I said last round, sometimes it's the teams that you don't expect that aren't necessarily the best on paper that make the run. So I think Gonzaga is going to continue.
yeah, I mean, I think we saw a little bit of like the shaky side of UCLA in this previous round. Obviously, we know Northwestern is a very scrappy defensive team that will get up and try to bother you. That may not necessarily be quite the style of Gonzaga, but like you said, their offense is just it's just rolling right now. First 2 rounds, 82 and 84 points. They've proven that their offense is obviously hard to stop. Drew Timme is still a force, and we mentioned this
Come
before. At
on.
least I believe I mentioned it before. What would Gonzaga do with sort
For a
of just a
Klondike bar?
little bit it not quite with a little bit of that underdog mentality. We've seen Gonzaga in so many tournaments as like a 1 seed or a 2 seed, being one of those like top guys. Well, they lost a couple games in the regular season, and they're trying to prove that they're still one of those top teams in college basketball. And right now they're playing like it. I like their offense to overpower UCLA. I've got the Zags too.
Okay, Tim, but what would you do for a Klondike bar?
Many unspeakable things.
I think that goes against the Geneva Convention, which is why we need to move on to
Yep.
FAU
Speed past that one.
and Tennessee. FAU versus Fairleigh Dickinson was a very fun game to watch and a very fun game to be at in
Yeah,
Columbus.
I can imagine.
It was a really great environment with you had like one little sliver of one little section right behind Florida Atlantic's bench that was just covered in red. That was going nuts for FAU. Everybody else wanted Fairleigh Dickinson to win. And quite
It's a
frankly,
fun story, yeah.
that team is going to be a case study, especially considering Tobin Anderson is just departed for Iona. It's going to be another Comet. And like the way FDU was able to press and rebound with the success that they've had, it's like nothing we've ever seen. But nobody wanted to see FAU win, and especially on that final dunk, like with the booze,
Yeah.
and
I
people
can
are,
only imagine.
and they're going to be vilified for it, which sucks for Florida Atlantic because they're making history too. That's what people
Yeah.
forget. Before this tournament, Florida Atlantic as a basketball program had this many tournament wins. None.
Yeah.
And now they're advancing to the Sweet 16. This is a very good, very real FAU team. And on the other side, Tennessee stonewalled Duke. Duke was red hot. They just like took a gigantic ice bath and completely cooled off. I don't
Yeah, it was
know
wild to watch.
what happened. Tennessee ran away with that one. But Tim, I still think Tennessee is susceptible to a slip up, and I'm not singing Rocky Top yet. And with the way John L. Davis, your boy Nelly Davis, propelled FAU to that win, put the team on his back against Fairleigh Dickinson, because that was a very high quality win.
Yeah.
I like the Owls to go to the Elite Eight. I'm picking the upset.
What a story that would be, because obviously you talk about, especially all the talk going into this tournament. Everyone was hammering Memphis in that first round game. There were very few people, in my opinion, at
Not
least from what
and
not
not
either of us,
you.
but there were so many people that really just believed that Memphis would just come out and absolutely stomp them.
Well,
But
Tim, they're the not knowers of ball, and then they're the elite. You can make your own assumptions as to where we fall into that category, but that's neither here nor there.
yes, but in this one, I think the big question is what will come from Tennessee's 3-point shooting. The real reason Tennessee won that game, in my opinion, obviously their defense stonewalled Duke really well, but they got so many points from 3-point shooting that I really am not used to seeing out of Tennessee. I don't know. I feel like this one's going to come down to the wire, but when it comes down to
It's an
it,
interesting matchup.
I really do actually like the guard play that FAU brings. I'm not a huge fan of the offensive
Oh.
side of the ball for Tennessee, and they got some sort of, I would almost call like weird scoring bursts in the Duke game.
Is
I'm
Timmy
gonna,
Moneybags also taking the upset?
I am. I mean, we know how crazy this bracket's already been. I could absolutely see FAU moving on to the Elite Eight.
Great minds think alike. We both have FAU to the Elite Eight, but we got one more game to predict. That one being Kansas State and Michigan
All
State.
hail Tom Izzo.
January, February, Izzo. That was the other game that I was at, and I don't know. It's weird. Both teams seemed like they were gonna lose. Like nobody
Marquette played
really
goofy.
wanted to win. Both teams played goofy. Are you kidding
That
me?
is true. I mean, Michigan State also did not shoot the ball like we're used to seeing.
Yeah, there were points in the game where like Michigan State shot how well from three this year? Like 38%. They were
30 to
under
39%, yeah.
10% from three for most of the game. And it was like really, really wacky. And then Marquette they stunk
Where
up
did
the
Tyler Kolek go?
I
Just
don't know.
he
I
just
mean,
disappeared.
I was more so paying attention to Omax Prosper and him lighting it up from three. And then when he stopped lighting it up, then Marquette just fell flat.
Yeah, they didn't know what to do.
Yeah, and on the other side, Kansas State came to play against Kentucky, and it didn't seem like Kentucky scouted that game at all.
They didn't seem that prepared.
Calipari in the postgame presser called Keontae Johnson, and he called Marquise Noel that little guy.
Wow.
That's disrespectful.
That's pretty bold for a team that just beat you and sent you home.
Yeah, I think that's all that needs to say about Coach Cal. There's a reason why you were sent home. But with this last game, I mean, Tom Izzo and Marge synonymous. So I'm gonna ride Michigan State into the Elite Eight. I think they got
I
it.
mean, the way they've been playing, they've simply been finding ways to win. Obviously, you look at this past game, not their best game by any means.
No.
Clearly not Marquette's best game either, but down the stretch, they did what they needed to do to win.
And that's all that matters.
I really got to ride this feel good story though. I still love Kansas State. I still love Keontae Johnson and what
Oh,
he's
they're
brought
doing the
to that
tang.
team. They really are doing that tang, but I've got Kansas State moving on. I think they've got a unique offensive, group of weapons that's going to be really hard for Michigan State to deal with.
How are these games going to play out? Only time will tell. But that's all we got for our Sweet 16 predictions. We went through the first round and the second round. If you want to see how our predictions aged, go watch those videos. We did a video about Purdue's shocking upset once again. It's kind of becoming a yearly tradition. Sorry, Tim, but it had to happen. We also made a video about the new coaches coming to the Big East. That is a huge move. The Big East
Shout
is
out
going
Big Mike DeRosa.
So back. I love that boy, Mike. But we have so much stuff coming. So if you want to see more from us, like and subscribe. And until next time, we out.